I'm thinking about how self-consciousness steals from me. It makes me sad that instead of what it could have been, I saw it through a specific lens.
But let's talk about this.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
To go, oh, that makes sense.
Yes.
We would not be having this conversation right now and have these realizations that you're having for yourself if you didn't go through that experience earlier today. You're able to have more empathy for others because you're aware you have those feelings and it doesn't come through externally, right? So because you're aware of that, you can now provide empathy for others. Like, there's probably other people and maybe people I'm talking to right now that are going through that same experience.
It's so hard because I feel like everybody I was talking to is just like cool.
Dude, you just don't know. I always tell you when you are regretting something or going backwards, like, just ask yourself, how is this serving me? You having that thought, right, is creating an emotion you do not want. So what is the benefit of having that thought?
Welcome back to Over Dinner. I'm Nikki.
I'm Jarrod.
And we have so many things to talk about.
We do.
Yeah. We have a particular thing on mind, but first I want to ask you, how was dinner?
It was good.
What did we have tonight?
Something that we have on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Our chicken tender salad.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
The difference is I've been liking, this has nothing to do with the chicken tender salad part of it, but all we've been making for the dressing is just olive oil, red wine vinegar, and lemon. It's like my favorite dressing.
Oh, but also the, what sauce is that again?
The pecan.
The pecan sauce on the chicken with all
those things.
Yeah, it's really good.
Fire.
It's really good. We decided that we're going to start telling you what we've had over dinner, along with what we talked about over dinner.
Yeah, and then maybe sometimes, there's going to be a lot of similar things for dinner.
Yeah. But you know what? That's something to normalize.
I'm a routine guy.
But also that's like something really to normalize.
It doesn't have to be.
You know what? I'm just saying, like, there's such a high expectation for parents to, or not just parents, but like people in general to eat a certain way or make these meals. And I know a lot of parents feel, at least moms, feel like they're not doing enough and they're like giving their kid pasta or they're going to like Chick-fil-A or they're feeding them the same thing every night and they feel guilty about it. But I think eating the same things.
No, it wasn't anything to do with bad food. I'm just saying I'm a routine guy and it has everything to do with that.
It's
I like
easy
to make the same things.
It's easy.
And I'll change it up every once in a while.
Yeah.
But thank you for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, what did we talk about over dinner tonight?
We definitely talked about how we're both more introverted than extroverted. Even though we might present ourselves as extroverted, we are very challenged in big group settings.
Mm-hmm. But we didn't always feel that way.
No.
But we're going to talk about
We'll talk about why we think that shifted.
But it's real. We were at one time both very extroverted.
Yeah.
Very social.
We thought we were.
But as we've aged and as we've gotten, I would say,
like a fine wine.
Yes. And as we've gotten much more comfortable in our own skin and grown personally.
And gone inward. And
we have become more... become more introverted or just
aware of what already existed.
Yeah. So what we were talking about specifically was what it feels like to be in social settings, whether that's a birthday party or like a work event or just like different things where there's a lot of people and small talk is a big part of the landscape that we're in, right? Yeah. And so specifically this came up in regards to a birthday party that we were at with our kids, and I felt trapped in self-consciousness. I could not get out of it, even though I went into the bathroom and I was like trying to snap myself out of it. I was trying to reframe. I was trying to do a bunch of things, and I felt really anxious, and I could not wait to leave, and I felt the dread of when somebody was coming to talk to me and like I was really in my head about what I was saying. And so we're going to go into all of it, but just to give you kind of a summary, I shared that then with Jarrod, and then this is on our way home. And then we talked about that there are most likely other people that are feeling that same way, but but what we're presenting on the outside isn't always matching what's on the inside. And I found this to be really interesting because in couples therapy, we talk about this a lot with Jarrod, specifically. Like, I'm a person that I feel like shows everything. I guess not in social
Apparently
situations.
not.
Apparently not. But something that's always surprised me about Jarrod is that he is feeling a lot more than he lets on the surface. And so it's very challenging for me to understand that because
But you can understand it.
I can. No, totally.
Yeah.
So this was a really great way for me to see that. Like, oh, but it just feels like I felt so socially awkward that it had to be obvious.
I'm guarantee it wasn't to anybody.
But it makes me sad that a lot of people don't know who I am because I don't allow myself to be myself in those environments.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. So we talked about really just self-consciousness, social awkwardness, we're going to talk about tonight, like where it comes from, where, it may stem for you. What are some ways that you can reframe that and normalize it for yourself? And then, so we'll also be talking about, what's going on internally is not always showing up on the outside.
Most of the time.
But something I think is really interesting before we go on this whole thing is when you do personal work, like positive internal changes, that is something that you see on the outside.
Yes.
But the other thing where you're hiding, you're saying that we don't necessarily see it.
People that are more in tune with that stuff, with themselves, gives them ability to see it more in people. Like, I feel like I can sense it's more energy than I would say versus like, but how they're presenting them. Like, I think I can be in a situation and know if someone's having a hard day or not in the best headspace, or I can tell, but you really have to be like in tune with that person. You have to be present with that person to really see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think people are at places having casual conversations, and like my brain typically is looking around at what everything. So I'm not really there with them to really know enough. Like today, like there's people at a pool, like in a conversation, you're kind of watching your kid probably. So, that makes it challenging too.
That definitely is an interesting thing because I'm a person who really appreciates and desires deeper level conversations. But at a social gathering, it is not the place. So if somebody starts to talk to me about something that has any sort of depth at that point, I cannot receive to then say anything back because I have 3,700 tabs
your
open.
ADHD as well.
Yes.
So,
but it's also like I'm thinking about my
stimulation.
kid. There's so much stimulation. I'm so overstimulated.
Yeah.
I just, it's interesting now that I've done so much of like a deep dive into ADHD. So many things that I've experienced throughout my life have been validated. And it's like, I feel like in many ways I'm seeing myself for the very first time. And it still blows my mind that I've been diagnosed for almost 4 decades. And I am still...
4 decades? When did you get diagnosed?
10? 3 decades, sorry.
3 decades, okay.
No, but going on 4 because I'm almost 40.
Yeah, but
in 4 years.
But 40 minus 10 is 30. So 3 decades.
Okay, fine. Whatever. 3 decades.
I was like, damn, are you 50 almost?
No, 3 decades. 3 decades. So it's just interesting. All right, so let's talk about... Let's first talk about social awkwardness, self-consciousness.
It's 2 things. Which one are we stopping first with?
I think they're kind of both the same because, I would say social anxiety is different than social awkwardness and self-consciousness. In my opinion, when you are being self-conscious, you're probably being socially awkward.
And
I guess there's a segment.
And when you're anxious, you might be socially awkward.
Well, yes. And I want to also just say on that point is you are not socially awkward. Your anxiety is what is causing the social awkwardness, right? To separate that.
The emotion.
So when did you first start noticing that like you were uncomfortable in those group settings, or maybe you didn't know what to say, or that you didn't enjoy them?
Yeah. I just recognize it. Probably not that. Probably really recent, like last few years.
Yeah.
I would say it just became more apparent.
Do you think that that shifted for you because, like, so you had a really solid college group of friends, which you're still friends with today, but we were all together, and you didn't really have to, like, build new relationships because you had such a solid core group of guys. And then we moved to San Diego, and both of us really had to start over. Mm-hmm. And when we were in San Diego, we didn't build a ton of relationships. We had, well, also when we lived in Pacific Beach, I would say we did have more. We did more things. We moved to Encinitas. We went right into the COVID, right?
The COVID.
Yeah, the COVID. We went to COVID. But I feel like since we left Orange County, we have become more and more and more. Was the word recluse? Is that what it's called?
I don't know. Okay. I think it works.
Okay. So I'm just curious if, like, that also is part of it.
I'm sure it's some of it. I think it's probably, yeah. But you guys gotta, I think you gotta, the thing I came to realization is most of the time when you're in that, back then in those settings, you were drinking.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So that lubrication got rid of that fear, anxiety, or inhibitions kind of went away. You're not thinking about things and you're really enjoying yourself. So,
and you're definitely not having deep conversations. Unless you're a drunk girl in the bathroom.
I have fun. I love having deep little drunk conversations. Those are kind of fun. But it's like, I love you, man.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, it's that.
And then you see them the next day and you're like,
hey,
this is really awkward.
Hey.
But definitely alcohol is a huge part of that.
But I think also too, as you said, like I crave deeper level conversations, and I think I can get to those really well. And I think because I'm having more of them with you, just in general, I think it's hard to go to the I want to get to the good stuff, and it's hard. Like, what do you ask? What do you say? I don't want to be like, what do you do for a living? Or, I don't know.
It's so interesting that these simple questions are the hardest to ask, where it's like, if somebody was having a bad day or like they were really struggling with something, stepping into that is not uncomfortable for me. Yeah. But to break the ice and to have that initial like high is very uncomfortable. Yeah. But there's several points of that. It's like, one, sometimes it's not uncomfortable for me. No. Sometimes I can go like bouncing into a social situation and I'm good.
I think it probably stems a lot with how you're feeling about yourself. We'll dive into the self-consciousness thing. If you don't feel good about yourself and how you look or how you feel, you are worried other people
are thinking
that.
Right.
So then your brain's going that way. So you're like RAS again, right? Yep. Particularly activates like, people know I'm anxious. So then what do you, when you're in a conversation, somebody, you're probably like, they know. Yeah. Look at them. Look at how they just responded. They know.
Yeah. So I think sure. Or I'm thinking, like, they're thinking that this is painful to talk to me. Yeah. So I looked this up, and there are 4 different categories when it comes to, like, the social awkwardness, self-consciousness, flaws in physical, this is perceived flaws in physical appearance, perceived flaws in social skills and behavior, perceived flaws in personality, perceived inability to conceal all that anxiety. And so...
Well, it's also... What was the second point was, if we believe we're not good in those settings, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you said, believed lack of social skills, right? Number 2.
No, perceived
lack,
flaws,
like you don't think you're good at
social skills and behavior.
So if you don't think you're good at small talk or good at doing that, you're gonna think that's how you're,
Yeah, that's so true. I was thinking about this, like, why do some of these situations like really just get in my head?
What did you come up with?
Well, for me, I think specifically is that I have been self-conscious for as long as I can remember because I was told to be. So, for instance, being an ADHD individual, the way that I have a conversation sometimes is that I interrupt or I jump in.
You cut people off?
Or I have impulsive nature. Or I'm hyperactive. Not as much now. At one point, I needed to sit down or do different things. So a lot of attention was brought to my areas of conscious, like of very apparent behavior.
What people told you you need to do differently, you need to improve upon, or you can't do that.
Right. So there's shame there already for me. So I already feel as an inadequate person because I grew up feeling inadequate and different. So now I'm like hyper aware of all those things. I was in the middle of a conversation today with someone and they were being very vulnerable and telling me something. And I literally jumped in the middle of the sentence and told this person about a person on Instagram that I thought would be like a perfect match for them to get the help they need. Like, I totally interrupted as this person was talking, and I literally said, "Sorry, that was my ADHD." Like, and then
That was scribble.
And that was scribble. And then I like think about it afterwards. Judge myself.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't perfect. I interrupted. And so I'm very self-conscious of myself because I spent so many years of my life hiding myself that I have to be not ADHD and not myself. Because myself is what is
and
not.
And how much energy and thought process it takes to not be who you are.
Well, that's why so I'm at these parties and I feel like I want to jump out of my skin and I can't focus. I'm so overstimulated. I'm thinking about the kids, that my jeans are too tight, that I don't like the way I look, that people think that I look bad or that I'm talking weird and they can't connect with me. And then all I feel like I see around me is that people are having these great relationships and everybody wants to take them on double dates. And it's me who's this problem. And it's so hard. And then we add on having a autistic child when you're going to a neurotypical environment with a lot of people that you don't typically interact with in that way with your child. And I was thinking about it because part of me feels like consciously or subconsciously I avoid those things. At the same time, I know we need to do those things.
Yep.
And so
we need to do those things for Jake. You want to avoid them for yourself.
Yeah.
Not for him.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. You know you do it for him.
And so not only am I self-conscious about myself, but now I'm conscious about my child. Yeah. And the thing is, Jake, he doesn't have behaviors, so I'm not worried that he's going to have a meltdown. We even talked about
tonight. We worry more than we need to worry about him.
Yeah.
Sydney
was losing her mind.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have behaviors. He does his own thing, like a true Pisces child, just doing his thing in the water. But I am aware of that I'm different. And it's very also hard for me to have conversations. Like I asked somebody today, how, does this person know how to swim? And she was like, yeah, he learned in 5 days. And he also, he loved it and he learned in 5 days. And I was like, okay, okay. And then someone else was talking about potty training. And it's like, although we're in, I would say, how many percentage would you say we're at? 85%?
Do percentages.
Okay. Well,
he's doing great.
He's doing great, right? But it's been a different journey maybe for us. And the same rewards or the way people do it, if we're reinforcing the behavior is different than the way we do. And so it's hard for me.
Sure, there's a lot of people do it the way we do.
What?
Sure, there's a lot of people that do
100%.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is that, and it's is autism my lens when I'm seeing this? Because now I have a label and a diagnosis, so that I see things differently. I don't want to go down that track right now. But what I want
self-conscious.
But so I'm coming back to, I'm in these conversations, and I don't feel like I have much to bring to the conversation because my world feels so different. It may not actually be that different.
Yeah, but that's your belief.
But that's my belief, is that my life is different. And in some ways it is, and in some ways it is more challenging in its own way. I'm not discounting someone else's hardship.
I'm saying everyone's life is different.
Yeah. So, but can you also acknowledge that having a child...
For sure.
Yes. No one else was holding their kid's hand around the party.
We didn't have to.
I know, we didn't have to. But it's I feel like everything's just different. So... I'm struggling with the amount of layers at those things. Is the self-consciousness, is the lack of confidence that perhaps I have in myself, the awareness about my children, and it's specifically Jake. And then it's having conversations that are small talk while also not totally living in that same place. So it's like so much work, so much energy to put towards it. And yet I still want to be invited to this stuff. I still want to be included, even though it doesn't feel amazing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, so signs of being self-conscious are constantly apologizing for mistakes, feeling as if everybody's watching you, feeling embarrassed, guilty, or ashamed, feeling responsible for everything that happens, having low self-esteem, struggling to deal with criticism. We talked a little bit about what causes people. We didn't really talk, but I talked about what I feel has caused me to feel more self-conscious. But some of the things that I was reading about is that people with anxiety are going to have, that be much more of a probability. But emotions related to self-consciousness begin to emerge during early childhood. As children develop, they develop a sense of self. They become more aware of social expectations and how others perceive them as they mature. And so, I just think that's really interesting. Like, these really are formative years that we are. It's like so much pressure to be a parent, man. I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, damn, we have so much pressure. Anyways, that's another podcast episode. But anxiety, depression, difficult childhood experiences, poor self-esteem, and other mental health conditions, traumatic events. Something I'd love to ask you about, though, is like people who have had maybe trauma or have had like a more challenging childhood due to maybe financial hardship, substance abuse, other types of abuse, different things that are happening, but they grow into very resilient, very, on the outside, seemingly very positive, energetic people.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's the hard thing. You just don't know.
Yeah.
What you talked about or said as one of the topics earlier is that, and maybe they are, but you just don't know, because we know how many people put that face on or mask on to the outside world and are silently struggling inside.
Yeah. Have you seen that YouTube? It's the soccer one where it's for mental health. Yeah. So if you haven't seen what we're talking about, we'll tag it in the show notes, but it's of two like middle-aged men who are watching a soccer match in UK, I would assume. And one of them visibly looks like he's just not having a good time. He's struggling. Every single game he's struggling. And the peer that he's with is always, he's energetic. He's, telling him, positive things. And he seems really happy. And at the very end of the not episode, the clip, it shows that the man who was really positive was the one who ended up taking his life. Yep. And you would have assumed it would have been the person who was visibly struggling. Yeah. But there are people who are silently struggling. Yeah.
That's harder.
Yeah.
When you visibly struggle, people actually will either be there to help you. But when you're not, and it seems like you got everything going on, you're all alone.
Yeah.
You're not sharing it. You're not expressing it.
So do you think people just get to a point where they're just like, I can't?
What's the point? I have no one's going to help me. No one's helping, I have nothing. I don't have help.
Because I'm not showing it?
Yeah, because how are you going to get help if you're not asking for it or showing it?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's come back to what I was asking you about. Like a lot of these people have grown into remarkable individuals who endured.
I think there's a lot of things that, you have found good mentors along the way, good coaches, got to seek help out, went to therapy. There's a lot of reasons. Got into something that, sometimes athletics helps a lot with that, builds confidence, get camaraderie.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of things that could have shifted from that early experience. But you also just don't know.
Yeah, because it's interesting. I'm just thinking about myself. I had a good childhood. Like I didn't have anything traumatic that I had trauma, but not necessarily like traumatic events, right? But I would say that I am growing in my self-esteem, that I am liking myself more and more, but it hasn't, you would think, I would think that I would be a much more confident person.
But it's also everything you said about surrounding your ADHD. Like being told, like back then there wasn't a lot of research, especially and it wasn't, it was a boy's disease, right? So all the behaviors you were doing.
It's not a disease, it's a disorder.
It's true.
You can't catch it from me.
I don't know.
Although
Sometimes I feel like I caught it.
Although I wish you could share that with me.
But all the things you said, like people not understanding it, and so all your behaviors and the things you were doing were like punished or said you were bad or wrong or you can't do that. But that's who you were trying to express yourself, and then you were being told not to express yourself for who you were, and then you correlate that to then I'm bad.
Yeah.
Like these are the things I want to do or need to do, but I can't. And they're telling me I'm wrong. Well, then you take that as you're bad.
Yeah.
And so,
I know.
Dude.
No, I know. I'm
There's
really...
that early, like, that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we show up to these parties and we are having these fake conversations, because, and I wouldn't call them...
They're all fake.
No. I meant in the sense that on the inside, like I'm really struggling. And
but that's not because you're not having a fake conversation. You're just you've built this thing up and you're so overly anxious that it makes it hard no matter what.
So are you not self-conscious when you're talking to somebody in these larger events? It
just depends. Like I like what I like to do a lot is lock in on somebody that I know really well and know or have a good conversation. Yeah,
actually I texted a girlfriend today and I wrote her and I said, why do I feel so socially awkward? Or like, why? I said, I think as I'm aging, I'm getting more socially awkward. And she said, asked me what we were doing. And she said that exact thing, is that she gives herself grace. She finds one person she's really comfortable with and just calls it a day rather than trying to be a social butterfly.
I gotta go talk to everybody. I'll have probably a short casual ones, but I usually try to lock in on somebody that we're having a good conversation. I'll have a good conversation because I do better in that one-on-one setting.
Yeah. Something that I find interesting is that both of us do not feel this way when it comes to leading workshops, facilitating, doing work. I have no fear to go do it. I mean, I get butterflies. Yeah,
but it makes sense.
But I'm like, that doesn't mind.
There is no back and forth.
No, but
but it's very structured. There's
in many workshops that I've led, people ask questions.
But it's questions about what you know and the topic that you're interested in talking about. There's depth there already. They're not asking a random question.
Well, and if someone's coming to your workshop, then they're most likely interested in the topic.
And then there's barriers. We don't play everywhere small talk does. You can
go anywhere.
It's nope, we're right here, and this is where we're going to be.
Yeah,
and I know all this stuff in here.
Yeah. And
I'm comfortable in here. I built the workshop. I'm comfortable in here.
Yeah.
It's so different.
So true.
And you're in the point person that's in that setting. That's your role as the expert. So it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It makes total sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Because if someone was to say, are you a social person? I would say yes. And I think
I'm both. It just depends on the setting. In work settings with my peers, it doesn't come up for me.
At work, it doesn't come up for you.
Not really, no.
But outside of work, it does.
Yeah.
Because there's not the barriers.
Yeah, the structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Something that I want to come back to is what we were talking about a little bit earlier about what you don't see, but people are experiencing things. How can we practice more empathy? Because this has been something that's been challenging for me. There's a term called still face. We may have shared it in other episodes, but what it refers to is there's this psychological experiment where when a baby's crying and how the mother reacts, is that what she said? It's the baby continues to cry if the mother is not reacting.
Yeah,
And the
it
baby
keeps a
gets
still
louder
face,
and
yeah.
louder and louder and louder and gets more and more hysterical if the mother has a still face,
Yeah.
meaning she's not engaging with the baby. So in couples therapy, we talked about this still face where I may be in hysterics and Jarrod is in still face. And I feel as if he is not feeling anything. But what I've come to learn within therapy is that he's feeling a lot.
Yes.
But it's not coming through externally.
No.
So what is your kind of thoughts about all of that, and like when you're in those environments, and how for you to practice grace and empathy and, you know, more awareness, becoming more mindful?
Well, I think it's what you obviously the thing I always go back to is like, how do we? Your first question was how do you practice more empathy, knowing other people are going through something. It's you have to understand you have to know your own emotions and how you go through something, right, and how that expresses. Because if like you're able to have more empathy for others because you're aware you have those feelings and it doesn't come through externally, right? So because you're aware of that, you can now provide empathy for others. Like there's probably other people and maybe people I'm talking to right now that are going through that same experience.
It's so hard because I feel like everybody I was talking to is just like cool.
Dude, you just don't know.
Calm,
But
collected.
that's that. If you go with that mentality that we know everyone is struggling with something. Like that's life.
Yeah.
There's very few people that aren't struggling, and you know who those people are. You're around them. You're like that person, right? But it's very rare. That's like enlightenment. Like those who don't struggle or suffer ever, those people are enlightened.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what connects us all is this human experience of suffering and pain and overcoming that and what that means for us. So we have to know everyone. It's like if you can have that and know everyone's has some pain inside them. And if you can go, what is painful like for me? Like, damn, that hurts. Would you wish that upon someone else?
Okay, but you're not going to be able to necessarily do that within 10 seconds.
I'm just saying, if you just, that's your mentality. That's just like how you think. Like, when I feel a really hard emotion, I'm like, damn, this sucks. But then I'm like, if someone else, then if I'm feeling this, and I've done a lot of the work, imagine there's probably a lot of people that feel the same emotion as me because we're human.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn, this sucks. So if someone else goes through that, I'm like, damn, that sucks for them. That must be really hard because it's hard for me. So I'm able to like see that my emotions and how I feel I'm not the only person in the world that feels this way. What some people do, a lot of people do. They're like, I'm the only one going through this. No. Like my expression or what I feel anxious about might not be the same things you feel anxious about, but that doesn't matter. We both feel the same emotion. It doesn't matter what caused that emotion. That's why you can't judge someone like, you're only anxious for that, but I have this. But like, it doesn't matter. You're feeling that. It's the same emotion we're feeling. And we know that feeling sucks. So damn, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. Right? Because I know how that feels for me.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that with you until I felt those emotions first. And then I was like, so when you're expressing your anxiety or stuff like that, I'm like, I can relate to you. And when people say you can't relate to me, it's like, no, people say you can't relate to me because you haven't gone through the same experience externally. But that doesn't matter. The expression of that experience is the emotion.
Right.
So yes, I can relate to you. I know what anger or fear or anxiety feels like. Everyone does. So we all can, that's our relation to each other, is we all have emotions. Doesn't matter what caused the emotions. The emotions are the same. Right?
So I'm just thinking about relating to that and like putting that into play, like in an actual scenario. So when we don't go up to a group of people talking or say hi to somebody because we feel self-conscious,
it's
right? It's our own thing. And yet if we are able to look at it instead of actually the person, but more so as the being of human, right? Like this isn't like this person or this person and this person, this person. It's literally like this is an energy being. This is an energy being.
Outside, none of this matters. Like,
so like if I'm able to be like level it, right? Like you feel what I feel, then I can go up to anybody and be like, hey,
Because whatever you're feeling in that moment, they felt that. It might just not be in that moment.
Right.
But they feel that in other situations when you're like, man, I would not feel that in that environment.
Yeah.
But we both feel the same emotions.
Can I ask this question though? Is like, okay, but there are some people, like I know some badass moms who, I mean, I just love who they are as people. I love their heart. I love how they see the world. And from what they share with me is that they don't have any of the same kind of thoughts or anxieties that I do.
Makes sense.
So,
but in other things, they do have those thoughts. Other things that might not create anxiety for you may create anxiety for them. Like those people might be like, I can never speak in front of somebody. But you're like, I could do that. Well, they might be like, I can never just spill everything out and be vulnerable on a podcast and share that with everybody. Like, so there's other things that are going to make them feel what you're feeling in that moment, but this isn't that. Parenting, some people just get it and it doesn't overwhelm them as much as other people. But to the person that doesn't overwhelm, something else does overwhelm them. Something else causes them anxiety.
So you're saying that nobody, there's not, besides being enlightened, nobody is exempt from this.
Psychopaths.
Okay.
No, we're here. We evolved not too long ago to fight, flight, or freeze. That's how we operate. Emotions tell us whether to fight, flight, or freeze. That's our signal to take action. Our emotions. So we all feel it's in our bodies because we had to evolve that way. That was our evolution. And now new things, instead of tigers or trying to hunt for my family or worried about putting food on the table, right?
Yeah.
That's what we used to worry about. A lot of little things, but now there's tons of things to either be fearful about, worry about, self-conscious about, angry about.
And where do a lot of people get that validation?
Social media?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that increases the self-consciousness
Well, that's why the
comparison.
I mean, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. That's why it's raising so much, because your bar is set so high for who you're supposed to be.
So high.
And how you're supposed to show up.
We talked from the very beginning.
And
Eating, food, for
how
your kids.
How you're supposed to feel, right? Like, the bar is so high that you'll never reach. And people never had a bar. A lot of times in the past, there was no bar. It sucked to feel that way, but there was not like, it wasn't like, oh man, I'm bad because I'm not what all these people are showing me that I should be happy. You always say, look at everyone else. I should be happy. I should be grateful. I should not be anxious. No, you shouldn't. They are feeling that.
Okay, so this is helpful for me in the sense of I don't feel as stuck, in the sense that I can enter one of those spaces again and come back to that mantra, right? Like,
and it's also, how do you work on it yourself? Yeah, that if you can get that mindset, that'll help.
But
it's also like
practicing self-acceptance.
It's that too, but it's also like, where is this coming from? Why? What happened? So you can work on that thing.
Yeah.
Like what has happened in your past, right? This is the resurfacing of a memory from an emotion that's triggering you.
Yep.
What is that? Like, but again, I always say it. What does that take? You got to sit down
and reflect. And
you got to go back to that that's the way to do it, is to go back to that time and feel that emotion. You have to bring it up. People don't want to, like, we want to push our emotions, but like, no, like, bring them back in and then go, all right, where did I feel that emotion in the past?
Yeah.
Because it's just the same emotion coming up again from some other experience or experiences.
Okay, now I wasn't gonna go here, but now I'm curious.
Let's go, man.
So now I feel.
You want to do it right here, right now?
That's what she said.
That was a really good one.
I know.
That was so good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh yeah, people can see us now. She brushed her shoulders. I was about to tell you that she brushed her shoulders off, but you can see it.
Okay, so regret.
Yes.
So now, as I'm reflecting on today's experience or any of these experiences that have brought me into self-consciousness hell, I am in regret. And what that feels like is it's a perfect example. Okay, so Jarrod and I I often talk to Jarrod about that, the fact that I'm not at the physical physique that I once was at.
Physical physique
That I was once at post babies. And that is something that I'm working on getting back to. But there's this phenomenon where you look at a photo of yourself 10 years ago and you're like, fuck, I looked so good then, but I was so in my head, I missed it. And then, so that's actually what I did today. I was like, in 10 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, you look great. I don't know why you had such a, your head is up your butt.
Say head up your butt?
So anyways.
Up your ass.
So anyways, I'm thinking about how self-consciousness steals from me. Mm-hmm. Social uncomfortability, which all stems back to my own
always your own
consciousness,
stuff.
My own shame. It makes me sad that instead of what it could have been, I saw it through a specific lens.
But let's talk about this.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
To go, oh, that makes sense.
Yes.
We would not be having this conversation right now and have these realizations that you're having for yourself if you didn't go through that experience earlier today.
True.
So, #grateful.
#blessed.
Thank you for that experience, for feeling those things. That's what they're there for. They're also there to say there's stuff that you still need to work on.
Yeah.
That's what they are, right?
Yeah.
There is a space of those emotions not present. That does exist. You know how you know? Because are you feeling them right now?
No,
Okay.
I'm feeling regret.
But you don't feel that emotion that you felt in that
I don't know
moment.
if regret is a feeling.
It's not a feeling. It's a state. But the emotions you were feeling earlier, are you feeling them now?
No.
Okay, so that tells you that it is possible not to have those emotions. And you can have those. Some people don't have, like I'm saying, like, those emotions are telling you there's built up things inside you. Memories or things that are still coming up for you they haven't worked on yet. Mm-hmm. So working on those things, like those emotions do not have to exist in those particular moments.
Yeah.
You can work on that.
Yeah.
It's not a forever thing because I can be in another place and that emotion's not there. That's why we're not our emotions, because literally I'm not feeling the same thing I felt 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
So I have proof that I can be here without those emotions. Remember that. It's a big thing to remember.
Yeah, but it's so important. And to go right along that is that both of these can exist.
Yes.
So I can feel, I can think, because regret is not a feeling. What is the feeling that is attached to regret?
Shame.
Shame. Okay. So I can feel shame.
Guilt, shame, yeah.
While also feeling grateful for the learning opportunity, right? I think for so long I would stick in one or the other rather than being in both, that they both coexist. Both of these can exist. Like I've had some thoughts just even as we were in this podcast about like dark things, just like worries, because that's what intrusive thoughts are, and that's what happens when you have a mental load. So, and I was able to come back to where I am right now, right?
That's huge.
So you're being in two places.
Yeah, but you also want to, I always tell you when you are regretting something or going backwards, like just ask yourself, how is this serving me?
And what can I learn?
Yeah, how is this serving? And if you want to eventually you should get to a point where it's like, what's the gift? How can I remember this gift? How can I remember this moment? Right? And who else can I give it to? Because that, you say it to someone else, you can teach something to someone else. We're doing that here, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I always ask you, but even if you're stuck in it, it's just like, you having that thought, right, is creating an emotion you do not want. Mm-hmm. So what is the benefit of having that thought? How is it serving me? And you can't answer that logically, but like, because I love feeling this way. No. Yeah. So you can change your thought to have another emotion that you want, right? Mm-hmm. It's both ways. It's your mind, body, but you can, right? It's usually typically when an external thing happens, it's actually in your body first before it goes to your mind, right?
Yeah.
But you can send it the other way. Like you can have a thought to create emotion, right?
Yeah.
We know we can do that, right?
Yep.
You ever sat there and go, had a happy thought and go, have a smile on your face.
Yep.
So, but most of our thoughts are unconscious, which cause emotion. So if we can be more aware of the thoughts we're having and go, I don't actually, this thought is not a good thought and not making me feel good. Let's try to switch it. And I'm making it sound so simple, but it's that's awareness.
Right.
And mindfulness is that practice of awareness of thoughts that aren't serving me. How can I change that thought? And if you keep doing that practice, that's what meditation's for, guys. It's the training and the helpfulness. It's not, that's what it really is meant to be, is so you can be aware of these thoughts, not get rid of them. Like people are like, I got to meditate and I can't think. The greatest meditation in the world. It's like, I forget, don't quote me on this. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes. But they say masters of meditation cannot go without a thought for like longer than 12 seconds. We're going to have thoughts. It's how do I become aware of my thoughts, allow the thoughts to settle, and then go back to whatever I'm focused on. And so you use meditation so that when you're in the real world and those things come at you faster, do you have a way to separate, we always say, stimulus, response. Stimulus, can I actually go to my head and go, oh, what is the thought versus allowing the thought? Because then after that, you take action, which is fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's, in a nutshell, how it all works, right? Yeah. So it's the awareness of thoughts and then saying, what, do I want that one? Or do I want to pick another one? That one's better. I'll take action on that one. Not the one that was before.
You could drop your mic. Yeah.
It's if you can really break it down simply, it's really hard, but like that's what meditation has done for me. I was nowhere in this space before I started that. Right. And then it's still challenging for me to be aware of my emotions. And I've been doing this for like 9 years. And you have a quicker, your gap, you can go there so much more faster. But that's why when we're in a argument and it gets heated, I shut down because I can't process. Where you can go, I know what I'm feeling right now, and I'm like, I don't know yet. I don't know what's coming up for me. Like I need to pause and go, body, okay, right? But that's what I have. But I'm getting better at that. But that's what, that's life changing, right?
So I'm so glad you found that. It's so wonderful.
Yeah.
I am a meditator who is on pause. She's taking a break.
Here's what we need to do. We need to create a name for the meditator, so she becomes a part. So then that part gets a chance to play.
It's not exactly how IFS goes.
I know, but
I like that idea. What you're talking about is the identity.
If we can create thoughts, we should be able to create parts.
Well, what you're talking about is like creating an identity, the person that I want to be.
Yeah, let's not do the habit thing.
Yeah, we're not going to go into that right now. Well, anyways, I think this was super insightful. Talking about self-consciousness, social awkwardness, once being an ENFP and probably now an INFP.
Yeah, and
do you think you are?
I don't want to label because I can be both. I know.
Actually, we can be intro-extroverts.
I know in that setting how I feel, but I also got to go, all right, why am I feeling that? What happened?
So what do you think happened for you?
I have no idea. Again, I'm a processor, Nikki, so I need to go meditate on it.
Okay.
But that's interesting to me, and I want to go back and like figure that out because that's a new surfacing. I think what's funny here's oh man, this is funny. It probably wasn't there as much before because I wasn't aware about it and thinking about it. But now that I've gone inward and like, oh, this is awkward for me. Then I'm like, now it's like I walk in there, I'm like, these are awkward for me. So again, the RAS kicks in, right? And
both of us were probably able to do small talk so much more before doing personal work.
Oh yeah.
Because the depth that we were at.
Yeah.
But I'm not dissing
small talk.
No. I'm just saying.
I think it's good.
I think small talk is great. It is great. I struggle at it.
Yeah. It's just, for me, it's a situation. I think it's in my head.
Actually, it doesn't. Okay, if I was going to, I got invited to a dinner in a couple weeks to people I don't actually know. I'm meeting them for the first time. I don't have one nerve about it. Not one thought.
That's the interesting part is like, I'm only bad at it when I'm in my head about it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Or I think I'm saying I'm bad at it. I don't even know if I am.
Do you feel that way before you arrive at the thing or only when you get there?
Yes. It depends on the situation. Most of the time it's like I get in my head before I get there and then I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Because I'm already here. I'm like, I don't know what to say. I'm not going to go there. Can't walk into that group. Not sure. How about them Cowboys?
I know. It's hard. Kids can be so helpful in that situation because it's like you can use it as such an excuse to like have conversation.
Yeah. I do want to say one thing. There's a new book out, and I think it's by Charles Duhigg. I don't know if I said his name right, but he wrote The Power of Habit, but he just wrote a book called Super Communicators. And it's, I think, what we're talking about. Sometimes we look at people and we're envious of the way they can walk into a social setting and have conversations. But he did this crazy research on a lot of the stuff we talked about, and he like gives tools and things to help for those that it's a little more challenging to walk in those environments. But he has tons of research on it, and it's pretty cool. So
That's great.
we'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you think we should end tonight
No,
with?
I mean we went more than just the social awkwardness. I mean we got into some
Well, we got to the
fundamental
root.
fundamental things.
I think we got to the root of
which is,
what the social awkwardness is about.
yeah, and that root's the root for everything.
100%
It's
agree.
the root for everything.
Yeah. Cool. Well, great chatting with you, Jarrod.
Great chatting. Yeah. Guys, if you like the episode, please subscribe.
Share.
Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah.
Are you the social awkward one like us? Join the party. Let us know. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.